All right, everybody, welcome back to a new episode of Grace Over Grit and Growth. I'm Alita Anderson.
And I'm Monique Fisher. And guess who we have with us today?
Today we have the third part of Mosaic Realty.
Yay! We all together.
So this is, as you see, Marcus is sitting in the middle.
Yes.
So, Marcus Rembert.
Yes, Marcus Rembert. I am the problem child in the Mosaic family here. My big sister and our little sister, they keep me out of trouble as much as they can. But I am a Southside Chicago native, born and raised, with the exception of 2 years that I lived in Boston, and father of three, 2 girls, 1 boy.
Yes. And then he has the pleasure of spending his days in the office with us.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you've heard us speak about what we do in our day-to-day lives, which is being realtors. With Mosaic Realty, it's the three of us. It's myself, Monique, and Marcus. So when you see Mosaic Realty, it's us three behind the scenes making things happen on a day-to-day. So we want to make sure that we brought Marcus out so that he could be part of this podcast journey with us because he's a part of our day-to-day. So appreciate you joining us.
Absolutely.
Yep. And I want to say I'm so proud of these ladies. Actually, the whole podcasting is so typical of them as we work together. The whole podcast thing was in terms of us, having podcasts here is my idea, and they just took it and ran with it. So I was just so unbelievably proud of them. And y'all make sure y'all give them a follow, a like, and a subscribe.
Thank you.
Yes,
we need that
please.
said over and over again.
we do, and we appreciate the support. By the time you guys see this, we will be in the month of June, which is when we're celebrating all of our fathers.
Yes.
So our topic today is being a girl dad. So,
Hashtag girl dad.
yes. So we got Marcus in the hot seat talking to us a little bit about being a girl dad, because he said he has 2 daughters and 1 son. So he gets to see both sides of being a dad.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start off. So tell the truth. Who's more dramatic, the girls or Marcus Jr.?
Ooh. On the surface, it's the girls, but probably it's equal because there's drama in different ways. It's easier to see the drama coming with the girls. With my son, we have to dig a little deeper to pull it out of him. Because he'll just hide behind, nope, I'm good, nope, no problem, nope, go in the room after he gets off work, play video games, nope, and then it's something going on, so you have to probably dig a little bit deeper to get to the bottom.
And the girls, they just come on out.
Yeah,
with
it's just
Yeah.
You see it coming a mile.
I'm here.
Yep.
I would agree with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lord. I got 2
Yep.
Oh yeah, we didn't even say that. So Monique has 2
I have
boys.
2 sons. Yes.
I have 2 girls, 2 boys. So it's an equal split.
It's equal split.
Yeah, so we see it a little bit different. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes I know Monique and I have talked about, she's very similar to my mom in her energy. My mom had 3 boys.
Mm.
So, and she needed to have 3 boys the way she was. And it's funny, I had girls to start because I grew up in a very woman-dominated family. So my mom has 6 sisters. I have 3 uncles, but my mom has 6 sisters. And then I grew up very close to my grandmother. So I love to cook. So I would come home from grade school, and she'd be making dinner. So I would watch her, and that's where I got my love of cooking from.
Okay.
Yep. And then, with my father and I, we have a great relationship now, but there was almost a 30-year disconnect there. So I really developed a really strong relationship with most of my aunts and my 3 uncles.
So that's why you're working with us. You just love women in your life.
Very opinionated.
Very opinionated women.
women.
That's all right. That's good.
Yep.
That's a good
Nothing wrong
thing.
with that. Nope.
Oh goodness. So what would you say? I want to back up just a little bit. So are there any cultural or generational stereotypes about raising boys versus girls, and how do you handle those challenges?
So cultural, I would say that it's a stereotype is that your girls need more maintenance, and I would say your sons, your boys need, especially your Black or ethnic boys, need just as much maintenance as your girls do. You just have to approach it differently.
Yes.
You can't approach it the same way with your girls. And then in some ways, what I learned, like, all your kids are different. So my oldest and I, Kayla, we have similar personalities. So I always tell her she's a very feminine, pretty girl, but she's a lot like my mother in that, you know, she has some very masculine perspectives on things. She's very cut and dry in her opinion. You know, she can hang out and play golf, drink beer with the guys, but you know, she's a girly girl too. So there's certain things I can tell her that I might have to approach her in a way that I would approach traditionally. You would think a male.
Okay.
But it's just, so you really have to understand how your kids are wired too.
Yeah.
So then you approach Katie a little differently.
Oh yes, Katie is a little different. Kayla and I can sit up and talk for an hour, drink a bottle of wine together. So Kayla's 31.
Yeah.
All my kids are adults.
Adults, yes.
So
No underage drinking.
No underage drinking in the rental house. No. So Kayla and I can sit up and open a bottle of red wine, and we can sit at the kitchen table and just talk for an hour. Katie's not a big talker like that. So she's gonna, we call her a cat. Like she comes out occasionally and then she'll disappear. So you get her at the right time, and when you approach her with something, you have to completely approach her in a way that she is going to, that speaks to her language. Because if you start off the wrong way, she
shuts down.
She's done.
And that's similar to boys' behavior. So I hear what you're saying about the back and forth. You got a little bit of natural things in Kayla, and then some different characteristics in Katie that's similar to how my son is. He's like he comes out, he talks, and then he goes away. I did what I needed to do, and now I'm gone. I retreat. So and you do have to approach them differently. You cannot start out up here. Right? You got to understand how they receive information. And do it in that manner.
No matter how frustrating it is.
That's right.
That's right. Because even with that, I know with approaching Bryce, it's like I got a question limit. So in my mind, I got to be like, which ones do I really want to know? So I'm like, and then I said, because after me, he'll be like, what? Why are you asking me all these questions? But if you ask those questions, he'll open up and talk about it. But it's not like I don't want to sit here and go back and forth with you about whatever.
Right.
And Katie's a lot like, you and I will talk about Bryce too. Katie's a lot like Bryce. Things have to, it's black and white.
Yes, very much so.
If it doesn't make sense, she's not going to spend a lot of time talking about it.
No.
And so even though she's probably comes off as the coldest of my three kids, meaning that, hey, I'm not going to spend a lot of time being warm and fuzzy with you. She's really probably the most thoughtful of the three. She's just you just have to pull those thoughts out of her. You have to work way harder to pull those thoughts.
That's very similar to Bryce. So he'll think a little longer and be like, oh, how does this make a person feel? A little bit longer because those are very, like you said, black and white. So we want to make sure it comes across. That reminds me too, because for me, it's just me and my sister. So my dad didn't have any boys. So we laughed and we kind of got the both of it because we were changing tires. I know how to fix and hang things. When I moved to my first place, I had my toolbox. But at the same time, I was getting my nails done. I was very girly, but I had those traits where if I had to do something myself, I always felt like I was empowered to do that.
Right.
So it was a fine line, but we laughed like, you should have had boys. Like, I don't realize that all girls didn't do all this stuff. But I think that also, like we were talking about a few episodes back, was opinions, of being able to voice your opinion, being heard, and not being afraid to speak up for yourself. Sometimes I think women or girls get pegged as that. It's like, oh, the damsel in distress. Let me, let somebody else solve it. Let me talk. As you know, I don't have that issue. So, but it helps you frame your perspective of how you were raised. Like your dad plays a important part. Makes you feel okay with owning that and being who you are.
Absolutely.
For sure.
So, what's one of the funniest or most unexpected ways that one of the girls has imitated you?
Oh, so I'll start with my oldest daughter has imitated me in getting into real estate. Something else. Oh, my second oldest, she imitated me in going to the same college I went to. I started at Illinois State. So and then Marcus Jr. is probably the most like me in terms of one of the things, I'm very playful with my kids. So out of my wife and I'm usually the good cop. She's the bad cop. And so, my kids will say I get on their nerves with my jokes and just being goofy and everything. And the older Marcus gets, the more he's like me. So that's annoying for him too, because he catches himself doing. He's like, "Oh, I sound just like you, Dad." So I love it, but yeah, that is like to see them because your kids swear, "Oh, I'm not going to be like you. I'm going to be so different than you." And I did it with my mom. And like last week, I said something, and my kids were like, "You sound just like your mom." And I swore to God, my mom is all of 5'4", 5'5", but she's hyper opinionated, very strong-willed, and so when she raised me and my brothers, we were like, we call her the governor to this day.
There you go. I love that.
Yeah, and I swore, I was like, I'm not going to do some of these things, say some of these things she said, but as the saying goes, more is caught than is taught. What you observe, you will do. So I ended up sounding more like my mom as I get older.
Yep, I think that like you said, we all catch a piece of it because I find myself doing stuff and I'll be like, oh, hold on. Yeah, and it's just because that's where you're raised, the environment you're in is part of you. So it's going to naturally come. Now, when you mentioned, okay, so you are good cop, Keisha, bad cop. So do you find in the situations, because I'm just thinking about us, the way that you respond to stuff with the girls is different than she does, and the way that you respond to something with Marcus may be different than she does.
Oh, it's completely. I mean, I'm usually easier on the girls, usually, except when it comes to certain things. I maybe if it's certain things I feel very strongly about, I can be hard on them, but usually I'm a little bit more lenient on them, and she's harder on them, and then she's more lenient on Marcus Jr., and I tend to be harder on him. Now, the girls would say we're not that hard on him at all, and he's the baby. So, he does, there's some truth to that. But like, you ever see people say, well, when I was born, mom and dad did this versus they didn't treat you like this. And so I remember reading or seeing something last year. It says each kid in a family where there's multiple kids, each kid gets a different parent because those parents are at different stages in their evolution process at that point. So Kayla saw us as we were struggling, like financially, to make it in the world.
Right.
So that probably kind of really forms how she moves through life. Katie, we were more stable. Marcus, that he will. You said that you are pretty self-sufficient. The girls can be self-sufficient. Marcus will call us for everything. Hey, he's in college. Hey, I need you to put some more money on my, can I use your credit card? I'm going here. Can I do this? The girls would call for certain things, but my middle kid, Katie, she's only going to ask you for something if it's a last resort. If it's a last resort.
Well, at least he called and asked.
He
could have just did it.
But he asking for too damn much. He like every time he calls, like, what do you need, son? I just can't call to say hi. I say, nope, because you're not calling to say. We're going to keep it real. Yep, we're going to keep it 100. So in that way, he is more probably traditionally like what you would think a daughter would be. Which makes sense. He's more like me. Like, I'm very, as a guy, in tune with my feelings, almost to the point where like my wife and my daughter's like, you too sensitive. If I'm mad, I just want to tell you, like, hey, this made me mad. This is upset. I've seen too many examples of guys swallowing their feelings and what it ends up happening to them. That sometimes I err on the side of being a little bit too much in my feelings, but for me, I just accepted the fact long ago. I'd rather be a little bit too much in my feelings and have you tell, especially being around people I trust. They'll say, hey, you took that personally. You didn't need to take that personally. Versus not acting like everything's okay and pretending, and then it turns into something way
blows up.
That's very true. That's very true. And that's a good point too, to talk about your environment and people around you, because that I think helps shape, especially at this stage in life, who you want around you and who you can trust around you. Because you don't want to have people around you that you have to be on guard with.
Correct.
And I think even with your kids, when they understand your intent, like they'll laugh. There'll be situations like the running joke at our house is that when somebody does something that either they're going to get trouble for or they just didn't, like, that was really stupid. Like, why would you do that? They'll be like, oh my God, Dad's gonna come with a video. And I'm like, what are you talking about? If you say, you never noticed that every time we do something, he'll be like, you want to keep doing this? This is what's gonna happen. And I'm like, so he started doing it. I'm like, he does like find these videos everywhere. So it's like the running joke of he's that too, where it's like he doesn't say very much. So for me, I'm like on them. I think I'm on them equally. Different ways, like with Bryce, because they are very, very, my kids have very, very different personalities. I think when you talk about Marcus Jr., I think that just might be the youngest kid thing because
Yeah,
that's
I was
Kennedy.
gonna say.
Yeah, it could be.
And I think
Yeah,
of my
could be.
youngest. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
of.
and once you know you ain't broke the first two,
You're like,
it's all gonna be all right.
and
they get a little more freedom.
They do.
They do.
Right.
They get
Because
more
you're in
freedom.
a different space.
Yes.
too.
So some of the stuff I
You're
would
not
worry
as
about.
anxious
Yep.
as you were with your
No.
first child or your second
Yeah.
child. When you come to third
Yes.
child, I'm sure you're like, okay, it's gonna
be
work
okay.
itself out.
And they have
Yeah.
their siblings that are also looking out
That
for
are
them.
protecting them
So
too.
they'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, you know
Yep.
what? I got you on this,
Yep.
whatever, or I'll send you this, whatever. So they have more of a village watching over them. So I think they do get a little more leeway.
As you say, that there's a story I think Kayla still will occasionally bring up today to complain about. So our first house we bought was in the south suburbs, Park Forest, and we lived a block and a half down from my wife's grandmother. So when she was old enough, we said, okay, we'll let you walk down to grandma's house. Her being the first. So what I did though is let her start walking, and then I trailed behind her about 100 feet in the car. And so just to make sure it is a block and a half, maybe 2 blocks at most, but still she was the first one, and that was my baby girl. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make sure. And because she likes her independence so much, when she saw me when she got to the house, because I was probably a little too close.
She was like, I see you.
Which is why
go to I-Spy school.
Go to
I
can never be CIA
or none of that.
Any of the alphabet. So she was so perturbed. She was like, why did you follow me? And so she doesn't. And I told her, one day you have kids, you'll get it. But she'll still bring that up to this day. Versus, Marcus Jr. probably had a car earlier than all of them. And the girls will make fun of us. They were like, he told y'all he was going to the store and he's probably in the next state over. Y'all don't care. Y'all somewhere out on a date. And I was like, well, And so, I mean, it is what it is. But I tell them what my mother always told me, because I was the oldest. My mother would say, son, keep living it when you have kids. You come back and talk to me and talk to me.
Yes.
Yeah. Just keep living.
Yep.
That is very, very true. So, if your parenting style was a movie, what type of movie would it be? Action, comedy, drama, thriller?
It would be action comedy, because like what's the one with Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan? What's that called? Rush Hour.
Yes.
Rush Hour or Bad Boys, because I'm either joking with my kids or they say I don't know how to sit down. I do too much. So they're like, either you joking to play, or you're going from place, you're all over the place like a pinball. So it would be action comedy.
Lord have mercy.
I'm laughing because I'm just like imagining.
I thought it would have been drama, but no.
That would be more if y'all were interviewing their mom. That would be it.
Okay, this is true. This is your perspective.
Yeah, this is my perspective.
This is your perspective.
That's where it's more the drama.
This is an action comedy.
Yeah, but they'll tell me, they're like, like we just got back from a trip recently, and Katie was like, okay, are you going to sit your butt down somewhere for a little while now? Because she's like, y'all are always going on trips. And I just ignored her because she's a middle child. So you just like, let her live sometimes. So, but she's like, y'all don't know how to be still. So I'm like, well, y'all older. You're all adults now. We done spent our lives committed to you all. Now we get
to and do our thing.
Exactly.
Exactly. You got your life, we got ours.
Exactly.
I think children don't believe that anything existed for us prior to them. It's like, what kind of life could you have had prior to me being born?
That is very
true.
And so
so true.
Like, look here, I've done a lot of things, So yeah, I can see her saying that.
Yeah, and I think especially this generation, I think our generation, we didn't have all this creature comforts they have. So we became adults way sooner. Like I think the three of us talked about, we couldn't wait to get out of our parents' house. Now you start to see where it's very common to see a 30+ year old kids, adults still at home and comfortable at home.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, and that was a shocker to me. Like I'm thinking like, oh, my kids get older, I want you to leave, and I know you want, because they complain half the time, like, you guys don't do this. I'm like, okay, there's a simple solution that you can get out.
Yes.
But they want to be able to complain, talk to the manager, and still stay.
And
stay at the resort. Yep.
And we've talked about that, because I struggled with that as well too. Because I'm like, I know they're ready to go. Because I left home at 21, so I couldn't wait to leave. I was like, isn't that the goal? To be raised and go. But it's different times. I'm not even gonna get into economics and all of that, but it's just different, you know. And so I had to come to terms with that it's okay. However, you still have to give them responsibilities.
That's right.
And say, okay, so because this is not like a partnership.
Right.
Yep, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So you all need to take care of some bills and do some things because this is what this is. Because you could go. But if you don't want to, then now we're in a partnership.
It's funny because, like you said, I remember like I couldn't wait. I'm like, oh, I'm getting my phone in my name. I'm getting this in my this. So with our oldest, with TA, that he purchased the house when he got out of school. He purchased the house, so he's now married, has a son, and my grandson. So I was like, I don't know what made me think about. I was doing something one day, and I said, "Why are you still on our phone plan? Like, why are you?" So I was like, you know what? You have until December 31st of this year. January 1st, you're getting off the phone plan. You would have thought I told him the world was over. He was like, I cannot. He was like, I was at work and I told people, I could not believe that you said you would be off the phone plan. I said, you have a whole household and a family. Get your own phone plan. Like, get off the phone plan. I'm like, he was like, why? I pay the bill every month. I send you the money. I said, it's not even the point of the money. Just get your own phone plan. He was like, can we negotiate? So he went to the phone store. I did not think this was going to be a big deal. It was like a whole ordeal. He called T like, did you know she's putting me up? He was like, I didn't know he was on the phone plan. You would have been off. He was like, because I did not know. He was like, when she told me you were still on the phone plan. Right, he went to the phone store. He was like, it is going to be like $50 more for me to get the phone. I can just save this money. He was like, think about your grandson and the money that I could send him. I was like, you are making such a big deal about this. Can you just get off the plan? So he was like, okay, I'll send extra. Can I just, it was a big thing. He's still on the phone plan and just sends everybody because he was so hurt. Like, I'm not part of the family. I said, you don't live here. You have a house in your name, a wife and a child. Get off the phone plan. Right. But no, it was like one of those things. And the other thing for us is vacations. We do big family vacations every year. So I was like, oh, you probably don't want to do it. And they're like, no, like, where are we going this year? Like, what are we doing? So things that continued on that I didn't anticipate continuing on. I mean, I still enjoy it. I love when all of us can be there because everybody's busy. So we get those times when we can all just go one place. It's fun. But it's stuff that I didn't anticipate. Right. That keeps going. And it's like, oh.
Yeah. And you just don't think it's a big deal. I didn't do Easter baskets last year.
Oh, I still did Easter
baskets. Right? I did them this year. Them big old boys hugged me like, Mom, I got my Easter bag. I'm like, oh,
yeah, I got the hint probably 2 weeks before. Kennedy was like, so Mom, in case you were wondering, me and Bryce are getting real excited about our Easter baskets. And I was like, what? I said, Bryce is a senior in high school. She was like, Mom. So I was laughing because I showed Monique I had the container. Right, so I was going, I made the little Easter basket so they got all their stuff. And they were like, oh, this is so great. I'm like, I did not think this even mattered to you all.
And you really don't think that these things matter. The little things that you do. You know, I decorate for everything.
Oh, yeah.
And then they used to talk about me. She do all this stuff. So I stopped for like 3 years. And then they was like, Mom, you really not gonna put up my happy birthday sign? It's my birthday. So I went back to doing that, you know. But you create these little traditions, right?
Yes.
And it's in the playfulness like you talked about. And you don't even realize how important it becomes that it matters. But then it makes you feel good too as a parent.
It does.
That they do want to be around you.
Yeah, you know? It does. So. It does.
I always think what gives me, so I talked about me wanting them out of the house. And that sounds cold, but I think one of my goals, what shows that I was a great parent, especially a dad, is if I prepared them for a life without me.
Yes.
Not to be dependent on me.
Absolutely.
Life. That way, if they need me for something, okay, that's fine. But if they can't live without me, at some point I'm gonna be gone. So that means I haven't done my job.
Exactly. And that is the goal, Mark. That is always the goal, to know that they can survive without you.
Yeah. So I had to learn, and I learned, I always tell them about my therapy sessions, and they rolling. I can see them rolling. He goes talking about his therapist again, and they're like, "We your therapist. You don't need another therapist." But my therapist helped me to understand. My therapist helped me to understand, like, how he's like, okay, do you really want them gone? Because my wife would say, well, he's always calling them when they're out, and he hasn't talked to them for a while, which I am. I'm always like, what it about?
Bothering them
he helped me to understand too that part of what all the stuff I complained about my kids, I created the environment that made them so comfortable too.
Right.
And we see that in real estate. One of the things we talked about recently is when we were growing up, it was very common to share a bedroom or space with your siblings. I don't see that much at all now. When I'm helping someone buy a house, if they have 4 kids, they're going to try to find a way that each of those 4 kids have their own space. And so when you think about the impacts of that on society, so these kids, they want their own space, but they also want to still be a part of the family.
Right.
So it's hard to understand, okay, you talked about me when I was doing all these decorations and everything, but then when I stopped doing it, now you want to have it. So when do I need to be the really loving, doting parent, and when do I need to give you your space? And it's hard to determine.
And it is hard. It is very hard. Yeah, it's definitely hard. And you want to. I heard a joke. I think it was Earthquake. He said, "I'm not the provider no more. I'm the counselor." Right. So I'm here to advise. I'm not here to give everything. When you need me, you let me know. And of course, I'm gonna be there. Right. So that's a difficult.
Because you do want them to be able to calculate and figure things out on their own, but then also understand that they're not on an island by themselves. So if you attempt to solve it and try to figure it out, and if you need my assistance, then reach out. Don't have me be your first phone call.
Exactly.
Be able, like you said, be able to sustain, understand how things work, and if you need that support, we're there. But we don't want you to have that.
To have it, and you'd be amazed. Like I would tell you, parents out there, don't assume it. Your kids are talking about you, making fun of you about something. That's probably their protection mechanism. It's easier for them to make fun of you than to say, "Hey, mom, I really love when you do this for me. That really makes me feel like you love me." That's not gonna be, unless you just have that kid that's wired that way. Because I typically do the majority of the cooking, but I stopped cooking as much over the last couple of years. And the kids will come back to me and say, you just stopped making this. And you would think I took they birthright away from them. Why did you stop making that lasagna? Or where did you stop making this? I was like, y'all wouldn't be home half the time.
Right.
You just thought y'all don't ever put anything in the refrigerator for us. I was like, you got your own friends, you got your own life. But like you said, Monique, they still want their adults, but they still want to feel like they're your kids. At the same time.
At the same time. But that means we're doing something right.
Something right. That is true.
Because you got kids that don't want to be around their parents.
That is very good. Seriously, that's a great point. That is a great point.
So at least we know they love us. So I think you touched on this a little bit, Marcus, but what type of legacy do you hope to leave as a dad? You just talked a little bit about, for sure, making sure that they can survive on their own.
Yeah.
But what kind of legacy?
I think I want my kids to be authentically who they are, even some parts of them that I don't like that's authentic. I want them to still be comfortable in their own skin, especially as Black kids. I don't think, as generations passed, just because of the way society was set up, that wasn't something, a luxury we always had.
No.
Right.
So I want them to be authentically who they are, go after their dreams, and I hope that's what I've shown, even with what we've done with Mosaic. We've had our families here putting together furniture and stuff, and part of that is hard, as much hard work as this has been. Part of that is I hope they are taking notes and the legacy of just going after your dream. Stop worrying about whether it's going to work out or not. If you have a dream, go after it. I've had people, I don't know about you all, I've had people ask me, well, you were at a brokerage before. Why would you take on that responsibility? Why would you do something that's hard? That's because I want to leave this earth knowing that I tried everything I had interest in versus the opposite.
Regrets.
Regrets. No, that's right. I want to leave here with as very few regrets as possible.
That's right. And if it's a dream of yours, you should go after it.
You should go after it.
And you work towards it, you work hard at it.
Yeah.
And it's harder than working a 9 to 5.
It is.
Right?
Oh,
it
definitely.
is, because you have to be self-sufficient. You have to be, it's so many different hats and roles that we all play. Right.
We all have,
But what we're showing to our children and people in the community is that we had a dream and we went after it.
Yes.
And it took, I told you, in another episode, it took George to tell me to stop for a minute and just look at what you've done
Mm-hmm.
within a year's
Mm-hmm.
time,
Within a
right?
year's time, yep.
Yeah, we're about a year and a half now.
Yep.
And so it's amazing. And sometimes we don't stop and just say, okay, take a deep breath in.
No, because we're like
Right.
looking at the next,
Yep.
But you said
Yep.
you're right. Enjoy the moment.
Enjoy the moment. And we have had so many people reach out to us and say how proud they are of us and show us love.
Yes.
You know.
Yep.
And we truly appreciate that.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah, we do. And I think that's the legacy that not just me, that we'll leave behind for our kids. Like, because we live in a time where, a safety and comfort. Like, so if you want to order a meal, I get at 11:30 at night, somebody's ringing my doorbell, or I get a notification on the ring. I'm like, who is at my door at 11:30 at night? Well, my daughter's ordering from DoorDash or Uber Eats at 11:30 at night. Well, so they can order what they can watch what they. I remember my wife and I made a conscious decision that our kids weren't going to have TVs in their room when they grew up. And so just so that they can, when they're be bored, like learn to be bored, so you can just be more creative and come out of your room so you can connect with family. And I remember about 10 years ago, I had a friend of mine, or I was bragging, probably 15 years ago. I was bragging, I was like, yeah, my kids don't have TVs in their room. And he laughed at me and he was like, yeah, they do. And I was like, no, they don't have TVs. He's like, do they have cell phones? I was like, yeah. He said, then they watching TV. So
right, because they do everything on their phone.
No phones.
I was like,
oh, now I got to deal with it. I was proud of myself. But, they have all these creature comforts. And what I think we're showing them is that really, if you want to be great, it's going to take you being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Most definitely.
That's so true. That's so true. Because, and you don't know, like, if you believe in yourself and you believe in your dream big enough, that's enough. You can push yourself and fuel yourself forward and surround yourself with the resources and people that are like-minded so that you can do that journey together.
Yes.
And that's why it's so big for us, like with community, because it's not, I mean, we have a realty brokerage, but there's also other businesses in the community that we support that we want to make sure, that we all win.
Yep.
And we can do that as we work
That's
together.
Right. That's right.
So, the title is of our podcast is Grace Over Grit and Growth. Tell me about a time of grace. Do you show yourself grace?
Not enough. That's where therapy has been very important, and just being around the right people. Even raising kids, we're like, oh my God, my kids. Some of my kids are still living at home. They were like, well, be grateful that you created a space where they, like you just said a few minutes ago, there's some people who would love for their kids to even around them more,
connect with
them.
Exactly.
Yep. And so I'm sitting here looking at it one way instead of just really say, okay, they still, because at some point they're going to leave and do their own thing. And as your kids get older, it becomes harder to get them all in the same space at the same time. So just learning to appreciate that. And I just think it's the way I'm wired. I'm the firstborn. And so you get more expectations put on you and everything. And so I've kind of carried that throughout my life and just enjoying like what you've accomplished. Like you said, George told you, your husband, about this. I think we're all thinking about, okay, we haven't done this yet. We haven't done that. And while that's necessary to a degree, stop and think, what have you done?
Yeah.
And how far we've come. And so you're oldest, and I'm an only child. So it's the same type of mindset too.
Yes.
With the expectations that be in there.
And most of the time is us putting expectations.
Seriously.
It's not external.
Right. Because even my mom, who's like, we have a great relationship, but she's telling me, hey, have you taken some time for yourself? Right. She's like, son, I want you to rest. Get some. I was like, okay, yep, I'll rest. And so that's one of the things that I've learned from you. You're like, Marcus, slow down. Slow down.
Yeah, you have to. You can't be everything to everybody, and that's a big lesson to learn.
It is.
But it also helps you try to fill those voids, but then it also lets you know that when you need that time to recharge, the people that are okay with you recharging are the people that really have your best interest.
That's right.
That's
the people that are like, well, I need blah blah blah. Like, okay, great. Then when you're not there, then you're like, wait, this is really one-sided. It helps you kind of see those things too. And it sounds selfish, but we had an episode about self-care. It's like self-care isn't just for you, because if you're pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring, exactly you have nothing left. And then you're a shell of a person and you're not. And then you snapping at folks and going off and not being, authentic and real because you so stressed. So you got to step back and say,
Yeah, let me take some time
And
for
regroup.
me and regroup,
Yes.
and then we'll come on back to this. So,
Mhm.
That like, and that's harder to like. Really, it's simple, but it's not easy.
it's not.
No,
You
it's
get to a
not.
certain point in life, early on in life, you're saying yes to as many opportunities as possible, but to really have the life you want as you get older, you need to say no more.
Yeah.
Because saying no is saying yes to yourself. You know.
And what's our saying? No is a complete sentence.
It is. It's a complete sentence.
It is.
It's
It's
a
like,
complete
why do you
sentence.
what? Like,
What don't you understand?
Yeah.
No.
Or you know what I love when people are like, what are you doing right now? Why?
Yes.
Like, what do you want?
What do you want?
Like, what do you
Don't
want?
ask me
And it
that.
doesn't matter what I'm doing, because even if you deem what I'm doing unimportant, doesn't mean I'm going to do what it is that you want me to do. So just tell me what it is that you want, and I'm going to decide if I'm going to partake or not.
Oh my goodness.
Oh goodness. Well, we have enjoyed you. We get to see the casual side of Marcus.
Yes. He comes in here.
We love giving him a hard
with his
time.
backpack on, ready to work, So we got him a little relaxed today.
Yeah.
I gave him a little bit of wine before.
You see
that, and it's empty.
And I think that's huge too. Like our working relationship, we've had to learn to work with each other.
Right.
And I when we set this out, I intentionally wanted to work with these two ladies. And they said, be careful what you ask for. But it has been great because we balance each other out so well.
Yeah,
and
we do.
Talking about, embracing discomfort for the sake of being better. We went through some uncomfortable phases, but so we can actually get to like working at a way that works for all of us. And they have been a tremendous help to me, and just saying, slow down. If you need this, say this, but also you got to speak up more. You got to let us know what you need, because we can't read your mind.
Exactly.
And I would apply that to your children too, especially as they get older. Don't all this stuff. They'll try to act cool, like, oh, we don't care. Like, tell them. And one of my acronyms I've developed over the last year is, I use acronyms a lot because it helps me to frame things and remember, is the DAD acronym. So your kids will always need discipline. Discipline will look different. If you have multiple kids, discipline looks different for each of them.
Yes.
Like my son, he's taller than me, and great, in great shape, athlete and everything. But I can't be a physical disciplinarian with him, just the way he's wired. That would crush his spirit. So I can come to Marcus Jr. and say, hey, you really disappointed me. You've let me down. I can't believe, and that's just as good as me taking out a thick leather belt.
Not exactly.
Versus my girls, they're girls, so I don't physically really discipline them. But I can't really talk to them. They're like, you disappoint me too sometimes. So no, I have to.
That ain't happening.
So that's where like I balance that out, and I can show some. If I get really, really upset with them, I fly off the handle. They're like, you the fun parent? Why are you flying?
What's happening?
I believe firmly that every now and then, parents, you got to let your kids know that you can act a fool on them.
Oh,
and,
definitely. You have just that little bit of fear.
Just a little bit of fear. Just a little bit of fear.
Just a little.
Like, I'm from the South Side, and I tell my kids, I was like, y'all got suburban dad for a while, but
right?
South Side,
come out. Come on now.
So the dad is discipline. Affirmations is the A. Your kids, even if you don't think they're responding well, especially your boys, affirm them. Affirm them. They will pretend like it don't matter, but trust me, it does. And then the other D is dates. Take your kids on dates. So, I try to date each of my kids, especially and it becomes more difficult as they get older, but especially around like their birthdays. Just take some. My daughter and my oldest, will go to a baseball game and have a beer or something. My middle kid, I'll take her. She's a little more bougie, so I'll take her to brunch.
Come on now.
And then Marcus Jr. will go out for a burger and a beer, because that's just our thing.
Yeah.
But and sometimes they won't talk much, but I just let them exist and just live like, okay.
But just know that you're present.
You know that I'm present.
Yep.
It's like, okay, if you need anything, I'm here for you.
Yeah. That's very important. It's those moments.
It is.
The memories that you're creating, the moments, those are the moments, those are the things that they're carrying with them and they'll remember.
And that they will remember.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just got to tell one funny thing. So as Marcus got to know George a little more, one day he went up to George and said, he went to George and said, "Man, I'll be praying for you." and then George reached out to him and said, "No, man, I'm praying for you."
Yeah. Little did I know.
I've been with her a long time. I'm praying for you. So,
and meanwhile, we'll find it out. This is really the one here, right here. So we have to y'all don't get on the leader's bad side, okay? So we just want to warn you up front.
But I think what makes everything work, like what our intention was to create something in an environment where we enjoy coming, we're able to be productive and give back to the community. And I think we've been able to knock that out of the park. But I think even like you said, even in the difficult moments as we're going to business, as we're working with each other, that it all boils down to intent. We all know that no matter what I'm coming in with, the intent is to make you a better person.
Yep.
The intent is to live up to whatever we agreed to as business partners.
That's right.
So when and that's why it's so important too with your kids. When they know the intent is that you just want the best for them, even if it's a difficult conversation, you both come out better.
They receive it.
It's received much better because they know what they, you know, at the end of the story, it's not something that they are.
And that's something that we have to learn too as parents, right? It's not always easy. There is no manual.
No.
Nope.
Each child is different. You be like, this child came from me too.
Yes.
Each child is different. And so we just, we're doing the best that we can. So.
Yeah. I think that was the biggest lesson for me is like, I thought the things that my mother did for me, to me, to discipline me, like would work on my kid. And then when it's this generation, and some of those things, you might have kids that respond to that still. My kids, by and large, they don't respond to it. And one, their grandmother ain't like that. I tell them some of the stuff she used to say and do to us, and she like, no, she did, because now all of a sudden,
a different person.
She went from a thug to like a princess, a queen. Like come on, mama. Don't talk to my grandbabies like that. They need this. I was like, why you never said that to us? But I mean,
that is so true.
Well, when I was coming up, my father never went to anything of mine, any plays or anything, because he was always working, right? Yeah. But when I had those kids, he was at every dance recital, band, and all of this. And I'm like, what did he tell me? I think he told me something like, "You want me to pay the mortgage, or you want me to see you dance?" Yeah, I got to pay the mortgage, So I'm like, okay, I did it. I'm only 6, but I did it.
Right. Like I do like room.
So it's a different, but there was a different time.
Yeah, it was a different time. Yeah, it was a different time.
And so we're cognizant of that too. But then we have to do what's best too. And then I also found too challenging my parents saying the way I was disciplined and thinking it was not enough because it's not the way they did it. So then you have those challenges too, right? And you have to say, well, let me figure this out for myself. Because these children are not going to respond to what we responded to. They're just not built like that. No. They're just not. So it is what it is. But everything's done in love and with good intentions. Yes. And that's what matters.
That's what matters.
Yep.
Well, thank you for joining us, Marcus.
Yep. Thank you all for having me. This has been a pleasure. I think I'm your first male guest.
You are. You are the first male guest.
That was intentional. Okay. All right. That we have good intentions.
That's right. And really, at the end of the day, we make fun of each other, but we all have we're big softies, and we really look after the people we care about. And so, this has been good. This has been like another therapy session.
There you go. I'm gonna start charging them.
Right, we're invoicing you. Yes.
So, Alita, tell us where they can find us.
So you can find Grace Over Grit and Growth on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. We've got tons of followers. What we guys need you to do is subscribe.
Yes.
So we've got all of your comments saying that you've enjoyed the episodes and some questions that have come through. So we appreciate all of that, but we do need you to subscribe so we get those subscriptions up.
Yep.
All right. Until next time, enjoy, and we'll see you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.